Hi everyone, it's Vicky here and welcome back to another card making video. Today I'm happy to join Waffle Flower for their September release and I will be creating a Christmas card using products from their latest release. As you can see here, I'm showing you some of the products. There is a big collection. I tried to make a card using as much as I could so that you can see many products in action and you can easier choose your favorites. And I'm starting by doing some foiling. I haven't done foiling for a while and I was super happy to play with it today. So this is the folk art frame and I'm going to use it on a dark green cardstock. So I'm going to cut out a panel that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is going to cover up completely a standard card. And then on top of that, I'm going to use gold foiling along with my blade. I'm placing everything on top of that, create my sandwich, I press the button and I wait until this stops flashing. And then I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine. I always like to run my sandwich a couple of times, so back and forth, and I never add an extra seam. I find that with my machine this is not needed, just the plates from the original sandwich are enough. And I'm going to show you the results. Let's take out the plate and the foil and you will see that I got a beautiful result, absolutely perfect, no overfoiling at all. So what I'm going to do now is to bring in one of the dies from the matching set. So these are the folk art frame matching dies and you can play with them, create windows or frames, it's really up to you. I'm going to use the inside die to create a window. So I am going for a shaker card for today, and since there are so many matching products with this design, let's bring in the stencils. And of course I'm going to bring in one of my grip mats. Since Waffle Flower came out with these grip mats, they are a must for me when I'm doing stenciling. It always keeps both my paper and my stencil in place with no problem at all. Now there are 3 stencils in this set. One of them is going to give you the exact same design as the foil that you see. Then there is another one that will give you branches, which is the one that I'm going to use today. And then there is a third one which is going to give you flowers. I'm not going to use them for this design. And now I'm going to do a little bit of inking. Since I'm working on top of a very dark cardstock, it is a good idea to go with oxide inks because they go lovely on top of darker areas. Any lighter green would do the trick and you will see the lovely detail that adds in between the foil details. Now this frame would make a beautiful card on its own. You can just stamp a sentiment at the center and you are good to go. However, I'm going to play with even more products from this release so you can see them in action and make a very special card. Now what I'm doing here is just adding some finishing touches on this frame. I'm just darkening up the edges. This is going to draw the eye towards the center even more and it creates kind of a vignette on your card. Use a clean cloth and it's going to wipe off any excess ink that stays over the foiling and this is ready to go. Now I'm going to bring in the folk art floral die and you see you get many dies here. I'm going to use all of them to create a lovely composition of flowers and decorate my frame. So for one of the dies I used the dark green cardstock, which is a scrap from the previous die cutting. Then for the other one I'm using this gold foiled cardstock and then I have a few flowers that I need to cut out. I will be using red cardstock for these ones. And with the magic of video editing, here are all the dies ready to go. Now for the green leaves I'm going over them again with the same distress oxide ink that I used for the details on the background. This is going to help them much better, all the colors come together somehow, and then I'm going to stick one on top of the other. So at the bottom I'm going to add the golden one, then at the top the green, and on top of that I'm going to stack all the flowers, making sure that I stick one inside the other. By using my fingers I'm adding a little bit of fluff on the petals so it looks dimensional at the end. The glue that I'm using is my matte glue by Stamperia from my own collection, and this is completely matte when it dries, so if I make a mess and you can see some blobs of glue here and there, it's not going to show when it dries. And then finally I'm going to stick that on top of my composition. It is a beautiful composition. You can use it on pretty much any Christmas project. Add a focal point or a sentiment and you have a beautiful element to go for any card. I absolutely love this, and of course I went with traditional Christmas colors here. You can definitely use completely different colors and you have a lovely element for different type of cards. It can be used for birthdays, for anniversaries, for pretty much anything really. And since I wanted to have one more focal point to decorate my frame, I decided to use the fall card bird dies. I didn't want to introduce any new colors, so I used scraps from the cardstock that I used for the flower. So I have the base made out of golden cardstock, and then on top I have a red bird. And then for the wing again I used the golden foiled cardstock. Now before I put my card together, I want to have all the elements ready to go. You see I have the frame, the flower, the little bird. I'm going to foil a sentiment, and for that I'm using this new plate that has many Christmas sentiments on top of it, and you can actually foil it all together and then use one die and cut them all out, so at once you end up having many sentiments to use on your cards. Now for this specific design I wanted to have gold foil on top of green, lighter green so that it stands out against the darker green that I have. You see here the beautiful foiling. I'm going to use the die on top of it, run it through my die cutting machine, and I will have plenty of sentiments to use on other cards in the future. And finally I have all the elements ready to go. It's time to put the card together. At the back of my card I'm adding some double-sided tape. I'm going to peel it off and stick on top a piece of acetate. So I have a lovely window ready to go. I'm going to use some foam strips by Waffle Flower, again all around that window, so that when I add my confetti it's not going to fall all over the place. And you see here I have a very light brown or dark cream panel here. I am going to place the confetti and on top my window frame, and I have a lovely shaker window with gold and confetti inside, and then all I have to do is to stick all the elements that I have already made. I'm placing the flower composition at the top. Then I did cut out once more this die to end up with a couple of extra branches so that I can decorate that composition even more to make it look fuller and to add a little bit of contrast on the color. Plus this color of cardstock is the exact same color as the sentiment, so I wanted to bring that color at the top corner as well. I do have foam tape at the back of the sentiment. I'm going to stick it at the bottom, and then at the back of the bird again I'm going to add a couple of foam tapes and just let it sit on top of the sentiment. And now for the finishing touches, I'm using the contour liner. The color I'm using is iridescent, and I'm adding a few dots where those branches end. I didn't use the third stencil, so those branches look kind of empty. They were supposed to be little dots there. And I'm also going to add some bigger dots at the end of those bigger golden branches. And that finishes the card for today. Keep in mind this is part of a blog hop. If you want to win prizes, if you want to see even more inspiration, make sure to visit my blog to find all about it and hop along with us. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired. Links to everything I use can be found down below. Don't forget to like the video, to leave me a comment, and I'll see you all on Friday with my Festive Friday series.